Hi guys, in this episode of the vlog we're going to talk about two new bits of data that have come out in the last 24 hours. They just show you how incompetent the SNP really are. They can't run a party, never mind a country. So the two pieces of information relate to drug deaths and attainment at schools, the attainment gap at schools. So the drug deaths, we'll talk about that first. Horrific that in Scotland this year already, almost 900 people in the first 9 months have died due to drugs. That's actually up on last year as an average, and the figure is only 150 behind the whole year for some previous years, only 2 and 3 years ago. So the amount of drug deaths has gone up despite the SNP constantly and regularly telling us that it's one of the key issues that they want to improve, and it's getting worse. And it's shocking. It's a horrible number. If you think that's over 100 people per month in Scotland dying due to drugs, that's more than 3 a day in a country this size. Well, it ain't big. And it's horrific these people are dying. But you've got to factor in, every one of these people have got family. A lot of them will have friends that are affected by these things. So the amount of effect on it's just horrific. It is really, really horrific that this problem's getting worse instead of better. Where I think a normal society would expect these things to get better. They're putting lots of time and effort into things like having safe areas for people to go and take drugs, which will be opening first in Glasgow, early part of 2024. Will that work? I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I watched several pieces on this about 6 months ago on the internet, going to areas where these practices have already been. And some of the stories were slightly positive, and some of them were quite frankly horrific. That it didn't affect the lives of these people. The people on drugs were still on drugs. Could it potentially attract more? I don't know, but is it going to make less people to take drugs? Highly unlikely. But that's the only thing that you can see the SNP, they seem to be hanging their hat on that, and if that fails, excuse me, then where do they go? They keep saying, we got this wrong in the past. It doesn't wear. This is people's lives we're talking about. This isn't phone bills and data roaming charge bills that we're talking about here. This is people's lives. People are dying, and it's on the up. You would think if you'd done nothing and but educate people and support people, these things would come down. So the fact that it's gone up again, it's incredible. And the second thing is the attainment gap at schools, where if you look at the most important subjects, the gap between the results in schools in poor areas compared to the results in these subjects in posher, more affluent areas is getting bigger. Incredible. And if you think about Nicola Sturgeon, she made a famous quote once saying, measure me on education. You're shite at it, right? You're really, really poor at education. You seem more and spend more time talking about the types of books and the types of learning that people should have in schools. Right, bizarre things like sexual identity and masturbation and all these things that are now part of the curriculum for young children. We're not talking about high school ages here, we're talking about primary school ages, brought on by you guys. And instead of putting your efforts into, things that could really improve people's lives, like learning how to read and write and learning how to count, that would be quite good. That would be quite a useful tool to have in your bag as you progress through your years into adulthood from childhood. That would be quite a nice thing to try and improve, and spend some effort on, as opposed to putting transvestites into your schools to talk about transgender issues. I'm struggling to understand how that benefits someone's education long term. And, you know, things like sex, sexuality, things like that, they should be dealt with on a family basis. But you don't want families to exist. You want to break this nuclear model of what a family is. And it's disgusting. I had a chat, I remember when the referendum was coming up, and I had a chat up with my own son, who at that time was at university. And I just got into university from memory. Sorry, it was an election, it wasn't a referendum. And I was asking him how he was going to vote, and he was talking about, you know, the pros and cons of each party. And he told me some absolute crazy stuff about the nationalists, positive things about the nationalists. And I was gobsmacked. And what I knew for a definite was that this stuff hadn't been into his head from his mother, who had, you know, not had a relationship for several years, long time now, over a decade. But I know her politics, and, you know, I know where her views and things are on politics. I knew fine well that this misinformation wasn't put into his head by his mother. You know, they bet good money on that. So when I asked him where he got this total misinformation in two topics, I might do a vlog about that one day. He said, they told me that in school. Who told you that in school? Like fellow pupils, school kids? No, my teacher. And not just any old teacher. I asked him what teacher was talking about such things in class. It was my modern studies teacher. All right. So what we've got in schools are people telling total misinformation. This guy had told my son things that the Scottish National Party and Scottish Government had done, which they hadn't. It was actually, the two things were actually done by previous regimes in Scotland. But my son was told in school by a teacher that these things were factual. What they'd probably be better doing is teaching people, particularly, probably a good starting point would be in the poorer areas, where the attainment gap's out of sync and growing. Basic life skills, like counting, like writing, like reading. And give these kids an opportunity to evolve as people, and they're the next, 20 years from now, these people, kids at high school just now, will be the leaders of political parties, leaders of countries. If we still have a Scottish government, they might even be the First Minister, unless we get a foreign one in, because let's face it, that's probably the way it's going to go. But that horrifies me. Absolutely horrifies me. And there was a conspiracy theorist came onto my messages and in my comments in the bottom of one of the videos the other day. And I totally went, no mate, stop the bus. Tinfoil, that's tinfoil hat. Carry on that. But you go, well, hold on a minute. And what the guy's claim was that the SNP are trying to destroy education deliberately, which I think, I don't know. I don't know if I can buy into that. I think they're just inept, right? But this guy's theory was they are deliberately trying to scupper education because they need thick people to vote them in. There's a certain amount of truth to that part. I'll give them that. But I just don't know how. I can. I just don't see how his whole conspiracy theory fits in, to be honest with you. But let's face it. If they've got teachers in high schools telling impressionable teenagers total lies, fabrications about Scottish National Party, and the attainment gap is getting worse on the key subjects, I don't know. Is it incompetence? Certainly not incompetence getting people to talk absolute shite about the Scottish National Party when they're standing in the pulpit of a classroom and talking to 20 or 30 impressionable teenagers and telling them absolute total guff, untruths, infactual information about the Scottish National Party. And that happened. That happened in Glasgow, a school in Glasgow that my son attended to not long before going to university. And that's what's happening in our schools. Do they actually care about the drugs problem? Is it just lip service? Because I don't know how any government, regardless of how good or bad you are, whether you're left, right or centre, I genuinely don't understand how if you say, right, there's a problem called drug deaths, we're going to put some time and effort into this, you could actually have it gone up. So it must be lip service. And the fact that the attainment gap, remember Nicola Sturgeon, judge me on education. We did. You're shite, and so's your party at it. They're not very good, right? It is shocking. And they've just got to go. The country is on a downward spiral. It gets worse every year. We used to have a proud nation. Scotland had one of the best and held in highest regard education systems in the world. It was unbelievable how it was admired across the world, the Scottish education system. Now we've got kids that can't read, write and count, telling them lies in these schools about the Scottish National Party. Go and take a wee look in the history books and go and look what was happening in Germany around about the 1930s, right? Because I'm telling you, you cannot over-egg this whole situation that this mad party are trying to do to this country. And again, I challenge, I'm going to do this actually every video that I do about the SNP until somebody can give me one, right? And here's a challenge to anybody watching this video. In the comments below, tell me one positive achieved by the Scottish Government that was a positive to the Scottish people in the last 10 years. Try it. Just try it. You'll struggle. And I'll guarantee you'll come up with stupid things like free prescriptions, bollocks. I'll debate that with anybody, right? It's one of the worst things that ever happened to our National Health Service up here. And isn't you? You could always get free prescriptions my whole life. They'll come up with nonsense like that. The baby box is a cracking thing, aye, smashing. Put your rain in a cardboard box. These are crackers. Anyway, this video's getting too long, so I'm going to cut this one off. Have a lovely day. If you're enjoying the video, put a wee thumbs up, and if you like the channel, please hit the subscribe and the wee notification bell, and share about everywhere if you see any of the videos that you really like. Alright, so thanks again, have a lovely day. Bye now.